And I'm live. Okay. Hey guys. So thanks so much for joining me today. I have a really good live stream here today. We're going to go over installing a tub surround or waterproofing a tub surround. So as you can see in the background here, we installed the tub. I put drywall up. I know that seems crazy to a lot of people, putting drywall up around a tub surround, but we're going to get into waterproofing this and why I used drywall. But I first wanted, before I even get started on all of this, I wanted to talk about the different systems that are out there. Because I often get questions about, like, what's the best system? What system do you recommend to use? What would you use? And, I use all types of different systems. They all have their applications where it's helpful. A lot of it really does just come down to availability, though, and the timing of when I'm going to purchase this stuff. So, a lot of times some of these foam boards and different things get out of stock and it takes time to get them in. Sometimes it's just budget related and I just don't, have the expense to be able to get the better systems that I like. So let me just go through. I've created a little comparison sheet here that I put up this morning. So that's with 2022 pricing, whatever day it is today, September 13th. So take this with a grain of salt if you're watching this later on. The prices can change on a lot of things. But I kind of created a spreadsheet on what it would cost to do a standard tub surround. And the one thing about the waterproofing system is that that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to get the shower waterproof behind the tile so that the tub surround can last a very long time. And that's really the main goal of doing any of that. That's where, a lot of the concepts of people putting in cement board and hardy backer, you have to realize that needs to be waterproof if you want it to last and not have any mold or have any issues, because the tile and the grout itself is just not going to, eventually water is going to get behind there and cause a problem. That's not to say that, when I first started out, I used hardy backer, I used cement board, and I went directly over it. And so it seems to be a lot of those tile jobs are still lasting today. But if you do the waterproofing, you'll ensure that things are going to last a really long time and you're not going to have any of those mold issues later on. So the systems that I'm going to recommend here, let me go on YouTube because I wanted to share this with everyone. And I'll put the link here on Facebook as well. So let me copy link. And I'll put it here on YouTube. So yeah, I am live. Okay. So let me just add that in here into the chat. So you guys can take a look at the spreadsheet I have if you want to take a look at it. I just put it on Google Doc. And let me see, make sure this is live here on Instagram. Or Facebook, I'm sorry, Facebook. Why is it not showing it open? Should be just automatically come up here on it, shouldn't it? Yeah, check your phone. All right, anyways, we'll get into this. Sorry, always technically challenging. I'm actually mic'd up. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of live streams at the same time here. But anyways, looking at what I created here. So this is basically just a highlight of what it would cost to do cement board with a liquid waterproofing. That seems to be a lot of people's go-to. They want to do cement board, maybe do a red guard. If I were to give you a recommendation though, I would go with something like Hydroban if you're going to do a liquid membrane. Cement board obviously is just available everywhere. You can almost always get it. You might be just going at the home store and that's where you want to buy everything. And so you're going to pretty much be really definitely be able to purchase this at any home store. So looking at this, you can click on these links, by the way, and it'll just bring you to, wherever I have the links to. So Home Depot. So cement board's what, $14 a sheet. Not too bad. You need about 6 sheets to do a standard tub surround. So you're only talking about $84 for cement board. That's very appealing to a lot of people. Makes a lot of sense. But, it takes a little bit more time to install. It's a little bit difficult to install. It's dusty, especially if you're using something like hardy backer. Cutting it is a nightmare. Overall, it's just a little bit more cumbersome to actually install the actual product. Plus, you have to address all the seams. So you're going to have to do some kind of fiber cement board, or a fiber. Did I have that on the wrong thing here? The fiber cements, yeah. So a fiber tape. You're going to have to embed that into with thinset on all the seams. So that takes a little bit more time. You got to let that dry before you go moving on to the liquid waterproofing. Let me see what else. So, and then here's a recommendation that I have for it. I would definitely recommend using Hydroban if you're going to go with the liquid waterproofing concept, because it dries really quickly. You can get 2 coats on immediately. A lot of people like going to the home stores and just buying the red guard that is sitting there. That stuff, it definitely takes a long time to dry, and really to get it to the mill thickness that custom wants you to be at, it might actually take you 3 coats to get there. So if I were to do cement board and seam the tapes with the fiber cement and then liquid waterproofing, I'm definitely not going to get onto the tiling until the better part of the following day. So you pretty much have to put a day into putting the cement board up and putting the fiber on, and then the next day doing the liquid waterproofing. So you kind of, like, if you're in a crunch, you're kind of drawing out the project because of the time period for everything to dry and get ready. Now you could use a rapid setting thin set, and that would address those seams. And Hydroban, actually, you could technically just use their mesh that they have, and the mesh that they have for it, and you can actually just use that as the fiber mesh aspect to it. So that might actually be a really great option for you, because you could get that all waterproof and put in on a day. So it's really hard to argue the cement board aspect with liquid waterproofing. It just takes a little bit more labor to install, but you can see here that my price of $272, you can get your tire tub surround with the backer board and liquid waterproofed. That's a pretty phenomenal price. On anything under 300 bucks is usually pretty dang good for doing a tub surround. So it's definitely a grade A way to go. Again, it's just it's a time consuming thing. It's going to take you most of the day probably to get this accomplished and be ready for tile. So the second one and the third one are basically the same. It's a membrane over drywall, and that's essentially what I'm going to be doing on this shower, because you can see I already have the drywall up, and I'm going to be putting a membrane over it. This is very appealing because you can, drywall is available everywhere, really easy to install, and really only took like 4 sheets to do the entire tub surround, and then I'll be thin setting a membrane over top of it. A lot of times Schluter is probably the most popular type out there, and you can get it in a tub kit, which is actually a really reasonable price, I think, for the most part. This one is, you get the membrane, you get the Curdy fix that you would need to put around the perimeter at the tub flange, and then you get the pipe seal and the valve seal, and then some Curdy band as well, all for $165. So that's really not too bad, everything considered of what you get in there. And that's probably the most available. Like, you can go to Home Depot, be able to pick up Schluter, and any tile distributor is going to have it as well. So it's very appealing to use that. You're going to need thin set to adhere all of this. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing that is kind of problematic with doing the membranes. It's just kind of messy. You're really troweling it all on and installing it. But the great thing is with the Schluter membrane, or the next one, what the one I'm actually going to be installing is the Guru membrane, is that you can just move right on to the tiling process directly right after you're done setting it. So that has a lot of appeal. Not that most of you are probably going to be tiling the same day. You're probably going to, just do the waterproofing and then pretty much get started in the following day. But as a contractor, it is nice to be able to just immediately start tiling if I wanted to, because it really doesn't take a whole lot of time to actually set the membrane. You'll see here in the live demonstration, probably about 45 minutes at most to be able to do that. And I want to share with a lot of the tips and tricks on how to do that. But Schluter, really hard to beat, really great, $265. So you're actually a little bit less money than doing cement board with a liquid waterproofing. And that was the only reason is you could get a little bit cheaper with a liquid membrane. You could go with Red Guard and lower that expense, because $114 for Hydroban increases the cost. You could get Red Guard for 50 bucks. But again, Red Guard takes a while to dry, and you're going to need multiple coats if you want to do it properly. If you just do one coat, it's not enough, and it does take a while to dry. So that is a problem. They do have a rapid setting speed set for custom for Red Guard, but you're probably at the same price as the Hydroban. And so, you know, really, Schluter, you'll find here, is pretty much the winner. It is the cheapest out of all the systems to be able to do. So that definitely has a lot of appeal, and then also being able to get it at your home stores. So the system I'm going to be actually installing today is the Guru system. And this is just, it's pretty much exactly like Schluter, except it's red. One thing, and I'll get into it here later on, that appeals to me, and I have to give a shout out to Misha from Winnie Designs. He's the one who kind of brought this to my attention, and I've seen him install it many times, because if you ever go onto his YouTube channel, you see that he's the guru of Guru, and he's installing a lot of it. And what I've noticed is when he pulls back the membrane, he sees a lot of great, I see a lot of great coverage, like better than what you can probably get on Schluter. And so I think, you know, this is going to be my first time installing it, but it's going to be the same method as if you were installing Schluter, but I think the membrane has a better fleece, and it's going to be easier to make sure that you get that coverage on the back. So I'm really excited to start out with this, or get using this system, because I think it is going to be something that if you have ever had issues with Schluter before, most of those issues, you know, we'll get into it later on where those issues come from, but most of it usually is the thin set application. So whether you leave the thin set on the wall too long and then it doesn't adhere properly, or you just didn't get enough coverage on, you know, the back of the membrane altogether. I think that's where this is going to make a big difference, this Guru membrane, because I could already tell that the fleece has a better grip on the back. So I'm real excited to show you this. But yeah, these don't come in a kit. You have to buy it in separate rolls. So I got 2 rolls of Guru, and then I had to get the pipe seal, or the pipe seal separately. And then you also have to get the caulking that goes along with it. So the Guru system was about $50 more for the system. So we're looking at about $317 for the Guru system. And again, the membrane benefit is just that I can pretty much immediately towel on it directly after I'm done. And overall, it's a fairly easy system. It's kind of like a foolproof system in a lot of ways too, because whatever you're, you know, when you're installing the drywall or whatever, you could always patch or fix things with the membrane. It's a lot easier than any of the foam boards as far as patching, because you have the excess membrane to cover things. But we're going to get, that's what we're going to do in this video. So if you're watching this later on, you can always speed through until I actually get into it. Like I said, I'm doing a couple live streams at the same time, so you're going to hear me repeat myself a bunch of times. But I wanted to go through the other 2 options that I think are really great options for waterproofing a tub surround. And that would be, which is probably my favorite. I mean, honestly, probably my favorite. If I would just do it on every single surround, like my channel would probably be pretty uninteresting. But I'd probably go with this probably every time if I had the choice, and it was available. And that is using Go Board. You've probably already seen it on my channel a bunch of times. But I think this stuff is just phenomenal. It's a foam backer board. It's a sealant application. Comes in a 3x5 sheet. Really lightweight, easy to cut, no dust. You do the sealant application. You have to wait about an hour, and then you can start tiling. So really, between the membrane aspect and this, I mean, you're talking about an extra hour of time before I can go ahead and tile, which probably isn't going to make a difference to anybody for the most part. It has a great price. 26 bucks a sheet. It really depends on where you're at too. I mean, right now that's roughly what I've been paying, is about 25 bucks a sheet. So you only need 6 sheets. You're going to need the Go Board screws, which are a little bit expensive, and you're going to need a bunch of sealant, and then the pipe seals. The pipe seals they don't actually make. I usually just order them from Amazon or you know, my home store or my local tile distributor, and just get the Schluter pipe seals for it. So that is not part of their system, but it's something that I think is important to go around your pipe seals. So $295 foam board, you know, it's arguably going to be faster and easier than doing this membrane that I'm about to show you. And, you know, I think anybody who's ever took my recommendation to use Go board has always said, thank you. That was really awesome. That really sped up the time and made it a lot easier. So in the same vein, if money wasn't an object and it didn't matter what it cost to get something waterproof, I'd probably honestly go with Wedi. Wedi was like the original board that, you know, came out, I don't even know how many years ago, 17 years ago, something like that. I use this exclusively for, you know, probably 30, 40 bathrooms, if not more than that. And it was really my favorite go-to for many, many reasons. We'll get into a little bit more of that later on when I'm actually demonstrating the install, because I have a couple of samples to show you. But the big thing is that it's waterproof all the way through the board, and you know, well, that's a big feature. It's waterproof all the way board, and it's very durable. I mean, it has a really stiff, cementitious outer cover. It's a sealant application, so really simple. So once you put this all together, same as Go board, an hour later, you can pretty much start tiling. And the other nice feature about this, I love this for showers. You know, if you're doing a regular walk-in shower and you have other contractors working in the area, you know, you drop a tool on the Wedi, it's not a big deal, because as long as the tool doesn't go all the way through the pan, you're in good shape, because it's waterproof all the way through that surface. So there's a lot of great things. You know, one of the nice features, I mean, what would I do Wedi for right now if I was doing a pretty intricate tile job, and say if I was doing a herringbone tile deal of some sort going on all sides of the wall, I'd probably go with Wedi, because, you know, herringbone can be difficult to make some of those angles exactly the same width coming up to like a bullnose edge. And it'd be nice to be able to take your grinder and be able to just scribe cut the tile after it's set to make a nice straight line. And I could do that with Wedi, because I don't even have to worry about it penetrating the surface of the board, because it's waterproof all the way through. So there are some things about it that really, you know, make it nice, so that when you're installing tile and you just want to touch something up, you can do that without having to worry about compromising the waterproofing. But it was my ultimate favorite, but it also is the most expensive. It's actually kind of ridiculous how expensive it is. Contractors could probably get this down a little bit, but I couldn't believe, I went onto the tile shop. So, well, this is Master Wholesale, okay? My old channel that I was on, we used to sell Wedi, and these guys were always bottom dollar prices online. And right now we have $74 a sheet for 1/2-inch panels of Wedi. So I really hope that's not going to be the case when you actually go to a distributor. But I had to use that because, you know, I always went off of what Master Wholesale was selling it at. So you're looking at almost $450 just for 6 sheets of the board. And then the sealant is like double what all the other sealants are out there. So we're looking at a grand total of $672 for the Wedi system. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I would hope that if you're a contractor, you can go to your tile distributor and lower that. But I guarantee it's still going to be over $500. So it really is like, you know, when it comes to price, it's totally ridiculous, and it's almost double what everything else is. So looking at this, they're all pretty much the same except for the Wedi. Hydroban with the cement board, $272. Schluter, $265. Guru was $317. And to be fair, the Guru, I'm actually getting more membrane than what the Schluter kit actually sells. So I am getting a little bit more waterproofing out of Guru because I got 2 rolls that I'm going to be basically going all up the ceiling. So to be fair, it's pretty comparable. Guru is just a little bit higher price overall, but that it looks a little bit more drastic than what it really is, because I'm actually getting more waterproofing the way that I did it. Just Schluter has a nice kit that you can just buy, and it's ready for the tub surround. Go board at $295. Again, if you know, I'd probably just go with that all day long, because that's one of the easiest systems to install. And then Wedi, $672. So there you have it. That's the price breakdown of it. And yeah, so we're going to get into the actual installation here. Now, if you're watching this later on, keep in mind that I am going to be repeating myself. I'm going on Instagram, and I'm mic'd on both sides. And then I'm also trying to get some good footage so that we can get some, you know, nice polished 10-minute videos that show this installation for you. So please give me a like on this video. I know I'm already in here, but Nat, good to see you. Thanks for coming in here. For shower walls, do you use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch? I use 1/2 inch all the time. I don't know if 1/4 inch would really be recommended over 16 inch. I just don't think it has enough rigidity to it. So I definitely use the 1/2 inch. One other thing I wanted to show you though, before we get started here, let me go back on my internet here, is first off, I have courses, if you don't know. I have courses on bathroom remodeling, and basically it goes through, step by step through the whole process of it. But one of the things I have in my tub to shower course in 7 days, and if you got the DIY collection, you'll get all my courses all in one thing for $99. But the tub and shower course that I have highlights the installation of a tub and waterproofing with the Go board. But I have a list in here about choosing different tub and shower systems that I think would interest you, as far as really kind of deep diving into the different type of systems. So in this PDF I created, basically it highlights a bunch of standard sized bathrooms, and I go through a material list and then my go-to types of materials that I like to use for it. But I was going to say, in the same vein with the waterproofing, I do highlight some of the time references that are involved with the different methods. So that's really, really what it comes down to. When you're saving time, it ends up costing you a little bit more, except for in the case of Go board, where it actually is cheaper all the way around. But I have a waterproofing section in here. It's about 37 pages of writing, and I really deep dive into the different time references and everything else, so that if really it's geared for anybody who really wants to deep dive into this, a little bit more information about it. But check out my courses, and then if you have any questions, you're always welcome to leave a comment. Email me, bathroomremodelingteacher@gmail.com. All right, so I'm going to jump on the Instagram here. Let me just see if Facebook is making any sense to me here as far as live. I don't know why it doesn't show me with live on here on the desktop. It is working on yours though?
Yeah, it's working on my phone. Did you
I don't really know.
type in your name?
I'm already on it. So, okay. All right, so we got a few people on. I'm going to clip off of here. And again, if you're watching this later on, use the tools, speed up, move on to the next section, because I'm going to, you probably hear myself repeat a bunch of different times here. FaceTime. Desktop. Okay. All right, I'll get on. All right, we're live. Hey, Instagram. So I'm about to waterproof this tub surround, and I just wanted to go over a couple of things, because I always get questions on why, what system do you use to waterproof your shower? What's the best way to go? And, what do you recommend? Well, that's kind of a tough answer to, or question to answer. And mainly it comes down to, because there's so many different methods to be able to do. And then there's a lot of, these days there's a lot of problems with availability. So really availability seems to be the biggest thing. So it's about getting the stuff where you can get it, where you shop, and trying to get that ahead of time. But I'm actually going to be installing today is the Guru system. So I have to give a shout out to Misha from Winnie Designs. If you follow him, you know that he's the guru of Guru, and you obviously see a lot of his membranes on there. But I wanted to try this out, not just because Misha had highlighted and showed such great videos on it, but I noticed that when he was checking his coverage, so this is going to be my first time installing it, but he sent me something, I don't know, a couple of months ago now. But what I was impressed with so far, and we'll get into this, is the membrane, the back of the membrane, the fleece is really much more, what do you want to call it, fleecy than the Schluter membrane. So I see a lot of issues with Schluter, people commenting that they have issues with getting a good bond to this. And I'm going to highlight, even with installing this, how to avoid from having any of those issues. Hey babe, can you put me on the video as well, on the regular one, so I don't have to repeat everything 14 times. All right, so I'm doing a bunch of different things. We got YouTube and Facebook up here. We're going to be on a TikTok here shortly, so thanks for coming in here. But I'll be going over a bunch of tips of why you know, a lot of people have issues with getting membranes set, and it really all comes down to the thin set application. But what I noticed with Misha's stuff, when he was demonstrating, you know, the coverage, it just seemed a lot better coverage than what I was seeing on my own Schluter installs and other people's. And I think it has a lot to do with this back fleece. So overall, you know, the thickness is about the same. It's just the back of the fleece. So, but anyways, to go about answering the question, what is the best waterproofing out there? You know, if money wasn't a concern and I could just always it didn't matter, I would go with the wedi board. Without a doubt, I would go with wedi. This was my really go-to originally 15 years ago. As soon as I saw this come out, I don't know when they came out. Maybe it was 20 years ago they came out with wedi. But I used this on, you know, probably at least 30 showers, if not more than that. I really lost count. But this stuff is really great stuff. You can see it has a cementitious board to it. It's waterproof all the way through. And what's really great about it is that since it's waterproof all the way through, if you nick the surface of this, you don't have to worry about it. Whereas other types of boards, so for instance, Go board, if you nick the surface of this, you've jeopardized the waterproofing. So this stuff, it's very stiff, it's very durable, and just the aspect of not having to worry about if you did anything to the surface of this, you don't have to worry about the integrity of the waterproofing, really makes a big difference to me. But this is going to cost you double, if not 3 times as much for wedi than it will for Go board or any of the membranes. So that is definitely, you know, I'd love to use this on everything, just not really that affordable. And at the end of the day, the client doesn't really care what's really behind it as long as it's waterproof. So now the benefit, now what I would probably go to just for affordability wise would be Go board. Go board would be probably the one I would go with, mainly just because it is only about 26 bucks a sheet. You could do it with sealant and you could be ready to tile in about an hour after you set it. It'd probably take me way less time to install this board with the sealant than it is for me to do the drywall with the membrane. So this is very, very durable. Go to my YouTube channel. I just went over exactly the cost difference. I had a spreadsheet on there about you know, what it would cost to do each one of these. But Go board would probably be my Go board. I would recommend that for any beginner. So much easier. But as far as the membranes go, this is just a good availability aspect, and I could pretty much tile immediately after I'm done. So those are kind of my reasons for it. Really the membrane and Go board, they're all roughly about 300 bucks, about the same price. The wedi is just going to be close to over 500 to do. So price always has a factor in things, especially when you're spending a lot of money on that stuff. But we're going to do the live demonstration here. So be sure to like this video, leave any questions down below. We'll try to take a period of time to talk about it. And you're going to hear myself repeat myself a bunch because I'm mic'd up and I'm doing multiple streams here at once. So thanks Instagram for showing up, and we'll get into this.
So you want me to film you while you do TikTok?
I'm not going to go through everything on there because I don't think you can even see what they're...
And your mic's not on for this.
Oh.
I have this on, but it's not, yours is not on.
Yeah, I just didn't, I mean...
Now it's on.
Yeah, I just didn't want to go through that all over again, but I'm going to have to.
Okay.
So...
No, it's okay. Let me know when you're ready, okay?
No, just...
Come in.
Yeah. Oh, wait, flip. Video live. Proofing. I don't think you even see this later on anyways. It's kind of stupid. All right, we're just gonna let our TikTok go because I don't really understand what you see later on. So, all right. All right, so we'll repeat ourselves again. So again, YouTube, just fast forward things if you don't want to hear this later on, but we're going to go through the spiel here.
Third time, honey.
All right. Maybe it'll be better, maybe not. All right, good. All right. All right, so I often get the question, what's the best waterproofing for your shower? And that's a really not overly difficult one to answer. It really comes down to the availability of the products around you. But it also has to do with price and cost of doing it. So, you know, at the end of the day, all you're doing is waterproofing the actual surround behind the tile. That is the ultimate goal. Really, that's the biggest thing that you want to do to be able to make your tile job or your, yeah. I'll try again.
Too many times.
Yeah, that's why we should be in here from here on.
Yeah.
All right.
You're not looking at the camera.
Am I not looking at that camera?
No, I mean if you're talking to.
Well, yeah, it is distracting having all these cameras on.
Yeah, it is. Don't yell at her.
I'm not. All right. Okay.
Ready?
All right. All right. So I often get the question, what's the best waterproofing for your tub or shower surround? Well, it really all comes down to the availability of the product around you, price, and then really at the end of the day, the biggest thing is just waterproofing that shower surround behind the tile. That's what's going to keep your shower lasting a very long time, is eliminate any of that water that comes behind the tile and the grout, which it will. It'll definitely eventually get behind there. That's why you need the waterproof, and it'll keep it from having an issue. I don't like that one either.
So, when somebody asks you, what's the best one that you like to go to? You were saying it's price, it's availability. Is there a third one, or is it mainly price, availability, or how easy you need it to be?
Labor, yeah.
Labor.
I mean labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe hit on those 3 points first, and then
Okay.
go into it.
All right.
I think that's where you're kind of stumbling.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
It's just you and me.
Yeah, and only
Yeah.
150 other people.
No, just you.
All right.
Ready?
So I often get the question, what is the best waterproofing for your shower? And it really all comes down to your skill, the availability of the product, and then the method of what you're installing. So, well, and the price. God dang it. I want to talk about the price. All right. We'll just do one more because I don't want to irritate everybody on this. But, yeah. All right. So I often get the question, what is the best waterproofing system for a shower? I mean, it is a tough question to answer because it really comes down to your own skill level, the availability of the product, and then the price point. So all of those are really up to you, but I want to show you exactly, the systems that I like to use and basically why I go with them. And I have them, I've used them on many different types of jobs. That seem all right?
That seemed okay. That seemed better. Don't hold them so much anymore because you talk with your hands. I think you need your hands free.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
So
All right.
maybe try it again without anything in your hands. Probably make a difference.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I often get the question, what is the best type of tub surround waterproofing for your shower or tub? And it's a really tough question to answer because it all comes down to your own price point of what you want to spend on it, your skill ability to it, and then the time frame that you're trying to install it in. So I'm going to show you 3 different methods on how to go about doing this, and then you can try to decipher what's best for you. And really all 3 of these are proven because the biggest thing is just getting your tile or getting the shower waterproof behind the tile, just so that you can make sure that you have a long-lasting bathroom. All right, that's good. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going with the Guru system. Or I'm going to explain this one on our own video too. So, okay. All right, so when it comes to membranes, there's a bunch of different systems out there. I mean, every manufacturer can sell it. You got Laddercrete, you got Schluter, which is probably the big dog on it. the Guru system, which is what I'm going to be installing today, and many other types of forms of this. And they all pretty much set the same way. You're basically thin setting them into place. I just happened to notice that the Guru system seems to have a very nice back fleece to it. So this fleece is much more fuzzy, I guess you could say, more fleecy than the Schluter membrane. And I think what this is going to do is allow you to have a much better coverage on the back of this membrane. So it's going to make it easier for you to eliminate any issues with the actual bonding. Because with membranes, the biggest issue is not having the thin set bond to the membrane and then have issues later on where this is moving. And then obviously if this is moving, it's going to disrupt the towel that you're actually installing over it. So I'm going to show you a bunch of tips on making sure that you install your membrane properly. Okay, so all right, so what we're going to do is use Schluter's All Set. So I don't know if that's a curse to Guru or not, but I really Schluter All Set, in my experience, because I've done a lot of Schluter showers, and I've found that their thin set really does seem to have a really great mixture and bond for their fleece, for membranes. So I really do like using that on all my membranes. I just buy a bag of Schluter All Set because it does seem to be superior in a lot of ways. Biggest thing about the thin set though, modified thin set over drywall. Biggest thing about it is making sure that you mix this to a wet ratio. So pay attention to the actual bag of the product you're buying, mix it to the wettest ratio. So in this instance, it's 8.5 quarts per bag, which is an enormous amount of water. Now for this tub surround, I'm not going to need an entire bag, so I'm just going to do a half bag. So I'm going to go about 4 quarts per half bag, but any thin set that you use, you have to make sure that it's at the wettest ratio because that's going to ensure that you get a good bond to the actual fleece in the membrane. All right, so we're going to go 4 quarts, do a half bag. I really don't think I'll need more than that. Hopefully I don't. But we can always mix up more later. I just know that a full bag is definitely going to be too much. Okay, so I'm going to use the cola mixer. If you guys are towel contractors out there, I highly recommend this mixer. It's really amazing. It really works well. I mean, you might not think there's much of a difference between mixers, but once you use one of these, it is amazing how much better it can actually do the job. So we're going to have to mix this approximately 3 minutes. So if you guys are watching this later on, speed through this because it's a little bit boring here. Just a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna let that slack for about 2 minutes or 5 minutes and mix it up for another 2 minutes. And that's really gonna get you the longest amount of time to be able to use this thinset. Not that it's gonna take an awful long time to do this, but if you mix the thinset properly, then you'll get the maximum amount of time out of it and the best consistency out of it. So, all right, so the Guru system, let's just get this kind of set up, ready to go. So first off, I did want to thank Misha from Winnie Designs for highlighting this product. You know, this is really my first time using it, so we'll see how it goes. But what I've noticed, and I mentioned this before, is that I could see that the fleece of this is actually much more fleecy than the actual Schluter. So I'm feeling like this is going to be a great product, just because it's going to allow the thinset to adhere to this much better and more easily. And I think it would be a lot more DIY friendly in a lot of ways, because most of the issues with membranes are always the thinset application. So, but all in all, they're both pretty much going to be kind of the same concept of installing. It's just going to be a matter of one's orange and one's red. So, all right, so the first thing I want to do is basically get a marker of the height of my surround. This, or just, you know, just put a laser or a marker of the level or the height of my membrane. So I'm just going to lift my laser up. This is just a good way to be able to set your membrane so it sits level and you have a reference point to it. So I'll just hold this up, something like that, and I'll be able to evaluate the levelness. It'll make it easier for me to spread the thinset, because one thing about spreading all of this thinset, you don't want it sitting there for a very long time, or you're going to have a bonding issue to the actual fleece. So it's really important, basically just cover what you're going to install. And if you're really slowed to traveling and you haven't done a lot of this, I would recommend, you know, separating the walls. But I'm going to actually run this all the way around, so I have a continuous joint in the corner. Really, to me, the less overlap or any lappage of it, you know, making this go overcome each other, the less I have to overcome when I'm actually installing a tile. I've already checked to make sure that everything is nice and flat on my walls. Now, some of you are going to be asking, I see a lot of people finishing the drywall. I don't really find that to be necessary, and honestly, I prefer my thinset to actually bond to the drywall and not to drywall mud. So you don't have to tape your corners. You don't have to tape this if you don't want to, and I prefer not to, because again, I think applying, you know, having the thinset actually bond to the drywall is better than the drywall mud. Just try to be as tight as you can. Now, I am going to be putting a couple recessed niches in here. I had my 2x6s framed out, and I'm going to cut that later because I haven't got the tile yet, and I'm not 100% sure of the height and how it's going to work with my tile design. So that'll be for a future video, but I'm just basically running the membrane, and I'll be cutting that out later. In a lot of ways, it makes it better and easier, because then you get a real reference of where your tile layer is going to be at, and that niche can look perfect. So we got this set at the height that we want, and we're basically just going to be wrapping this. I would recommend, we're going to actually cut a piece down alongside the tub. This is one area that is really critical for waterproofing. It's down alongside the actual tub. So if you have an alcove like this, where you have the ability to bring the wall out past it, highly recommend that, so that you can get, you know, at least bullnose or some kind of tile going alongside of the tub, because that's always an area where you have problems, you know, water running down, hitting the drywall and causing problems. So if you can bring your tile work out like a couple of inches, that's really the best way to go. So we're going to waterproof along this. So I'm just going to get a small amount of membrane. And the other thing I'm doing on here is actually I'm running my tile on the outside corner of this. So this is not going to be drywall. It's actually going to be tile. So I'm going to wrap my waterproofing around here as well. So, but I want to do this bottom part first and then overlap this. It just makes more sense because it's kind of like a window flashing. You're kind of putting the flashing over top. But all intents and purposes, the way that these membranes work, you could overlap it the opposite direction. The whole idea is the hydraulic aspect of this is that this fleece bump like kind of fuses itself into the thinset and creates like a water it doesn't allow water to go through the fleece and the membrane. So it's kind of the scientific end of this. I'm not going to claim that I know how exactly that works, but really the idea is once you thin set this, it actually crystallizes together and becomes so tight that water molecules can't get through it. So you could overlap it the other way. To me, it still just makes sense to make it like a window flashing. So let me cut a little bit of this. I'll do that for the other side as well. So that'll give us enough room to wrap around there. Now I am doing a towel wainscoting all the way across here, but I don't see any point in waterproofing all of that. It's going to be outside the shower area, and really, there's really no need to. So, a thin set's going to bond just perfectly fine to raw drywall. All right, so I'm going to mix this up for another minute or two, and then we'll get into the thin set application. Okay, so we'll do these side pieces first. Come on, Scoop, get out of there. Oh, come on, get it. Now, come on. Kai, get in here. Come on, get in here. Kai, come on, go. Get in. Good Lord. Okay, so for the floor, we're going to be actually using a liquid waterproofing. So I kind of like the idea of putting this on first, so then I can liquid waterproof it coming through there. But first, just wipe down your drywall a little bit, just to keep that thin set from zapping the moisture out. And then, so what we're going to be using is an 1/8 by 1/8 inch square notch trowel. This is actually the Schluter Curdy trowel is what this is. Very small amount. It doesn't really take a lot of thin set. So that's why half a bag is probably going to do this. And then we're just going to basically do directional troweling on this. Now on this little piece, it's not going to really affect anything. But pay attention to this thin set so you can see how droopy it is. This is not really, I would not tile with that. So this is definitely watered down, and that's what you want. You want it to be the thinnest ratio that the manufacturer allows, so that you have a good bond with this. So, all right, so we're gonna probably cut a little bit of this out because I don't need this extending all the way up. This is primarily just to wrap around the corner. So really anywhere that you overlap. You kind of just want the same rules as Schluter, just basically 2 inches overlap on everything. So that's what we're going to do on this. I'm going to tuck this nice and tight to my tub. Now the other thing I'm going to do here is use some sealant to adhere the membrane to the tub. So just use your 6-inch knife or whatever knife you have to embed this nicely. And then what I'm going to do is pull this back a little bit. And so this is the sealant that it comes with. This is a adhesive, basically a waterproof adhesive for this system. Okay, so I'll cut this off a bit. What? Okay. All right, so I'm just going to put a little caulk joint against the tub here. And that'll ensure a good seal of this to the tub. And let me just cut out the excess here. New blade here. Okay, so then it's nice and sealed here. And then anything that you actually get on the tub, you can get it off later. It's just, in some ways it's going to be a little bit easier to do that later. But if you can get a little bit of sealant underneath of that, it'll help make sure it's bonded well to the tub. Okay, all right, so we'll do the same thing on this side. Okay, so this is a really critical area, the waterproof. So anytime that you install a tub, I highly recommend that you waterproof against the actual tub. So we're going to be using some membrane for this, specifically the Guru membrane. It's pretty much the same as a Schluter membrane for the most part. So we're going to go right up against here and make sure that we get a nice waterproof seal, because you always have issues right along that tub area. So this is a thinset application and using an 1/8 by 1/8 inch square notch trowel. So take the flat side of the trowel, embed it into the drywall, and then use directional troweling on the rest of it. So it doesn't take a lot of thinset to embed this. Okay, and then just get a bead of this sealant to adhere that membrane to the tub. Okay, so we're going to be wrapping this. You want to basically have this 2 inches above the tub so that when we run our wall fleece, that we overlap it. And then we'll just embed this right into that sealant. And wrap our wrapper membrane. So then if you had any excess membrane, you can always cut that out and remove any of that excess, but I'm going to leave that the way that it is. And then when I go to tile it, if I see any of this membrane sticking outside of the tile, I'll just cut it off. But at least now this is 100% waterproof up against that tub. Nothing's going to have a problem with anything rotting there. Okay. Just keep this as flat as you can so that you don't have any issues with your tile. So these are two critical areas, you know, right alongside the tub is really important to get that right, because that's definitely where I see a lot of issues with the tubs that I tear out. You know, it's all usually rotted right against those alcove corners. Make it so it fits the whole tub.
It has the whole tub.
No, on that side it does, not on this side, where the valve is. Yeah, there you go. That's good. Yeah. Okay, so first step to installing the membrane, just wipe down your surface. I have my laser set up so that I know where I need the thin set to. But all we're going to do is apply the thin set. I have an 1/8 by 1/8 inch square notch trowel for this. And biggest thing, you can see my thin set is pretty loose. This is not something I would install. You all right? Do you want this stand? Okay. Yeah, when you move that around, it's hard for me to speak through stuff. So, all right. Let me try that over again. All right, so first step is to wet down the drywall, and this is basically essentially keep that thin set from zapping the moisture out of it. So what I'm using is an 1/8 by 1/8 inch square notch trowel, and as you can see, the biggest thing is making sure that it has a loose consistency to it. This is usually where all the problems happen with membranes installation, is it actually not bonding well to the actual membrane. So just take the flat side of your trowel and bed the thin set into the substrate. So everywhere that I'm going to be troweling it, I'm just kind of working the way in to the substrate, and then I'm going to do directional troweling. Now I'd say you've got about 10 minutes max before you want to set this membrane, because you don't want this to skin over, and we're going to wrap this corner too. And then over the existing membrane as well. All right, so and we're going to wipe any of the thinset off of the actual tub flange. So as you can notice, my tile or my substrate is even with my tub flange. It all depends on what tub you're actually installing. Some of them are going to be indented more. The cooler tub kind of lines right up with it, but the board is sitting above the tub flange, and then we're going to be bringing that membrane down over top of it. So we're going to adhere to the tub flange. We're going to adhere with the sealant. So we don't want to have any thinset there. So you want to remove any thinset from that area. And let's go ahead and do this back area, just wetting down that drywall. Work it into the substrate. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes, so I'm actually going to set this membrane after I get this membrane set, or this thinset applied. Make sure you got consistency with your thinset. Anything excess is just going to kind of bubble it out. It's the biggest thing about these membranes is just trying to keep them flat and even. So, all right, and then we want to remove any of the excess around this tub flange because I'm going to be adding the sealant there. Okay, so this is the Guru sealant. I'm just going to apply a big bead here right along the edge of my tub. So you will need more than one tube. What the hell isn't that releasing for? There we go. So usually for a tub deck, I do get like 2 tubes of sealant because you'll go through it with the tub flange. So it all depends on the type of tub. You know, honestly, like a cast iron tub, you probably go through a little bit less because those flanges are so thick, but you still really want to have a 1/2 inch bead all the way along here. You want to just take a close up of that. Whoop, whoop.
Sorry.
Okay, so bonding of the fleece. So we're going to wrap this around that corner, and we're just going to try to maintain visual of our laser here. It'll help kind of guide us. Okay, so biggest thing here is trying to get this in this corner as tight as possible. There we go. All right, so we're going to get this nice and tight with our bottom here. Try to eliminate any of the air bubbles. So before I start moving along here, I want to just tuck this into this corner with my knife. So it's not going to hurt to pull this off to get this tight. But before we embed this, we want to double check the coverage. So let's just try to get this embedded tightly. And that's where sometimes it might be easier to cut part of this rather than having a continuous bead like this. Just chase those air bubbles out of here with your knife. All right, then let's just check this. So not bad. I just have my outside corner Yeah, see that, I like that. See, that looks pretty good right there. See all that? That's all kind of coming out like that. This does not look like enough to me. So I want to get more thin set on this area. And again, it's not going to hurt to pull this stuff off of here. So there, that's good coverage there. It really is primarily right in this area for some reason. So maybe it's skinned over a little bit. Doesn't really matter, but it's not going to hurt to pull this off. Chase those air bubbles out of here. I think I needed the corner better too, but we'll check this again real quick. Yeah, much, much better. That's what you want to see. Now, again, I do have this corner, and I had a feeling that was going to be a problem right here. So we'll get more thin set all the way along this corner, and then we'll get more on this outside flange. I try to make the drywall as square as possible so that I can eliminate an issue there. But the most critical part is just double checking it, that's for sure. Because you can't really do it later. So there you go, that's much better. Make sure you got enough bonding to the fleece down here. And just try to keep any of those air bubbles from that corner. Let me cut this because this. Okay, all right, so now we got this one. Let's check that. That's not bad. Again, I'm a little shy here at the bottom, so I want to get a little bit more there. That all looks good. You know, you can see nothing but white. That's acceptable, but I really prefer to have a little bit more on there. So let's just roll this up here a little bit and apply more on it. Okay, that should do it. I do the same thing on Ditra too, you know. It's definitely worth the effort to check that coverage. Because that's what you're spending all the money for here. So just chase these air bubbles out of here. I definitely have enough thinset now. See that kind of oozing out of there. Okay, so moving on. Let's get this membrane out past our surrounds here. Okay, so I'm gonna take off my little valve thing here. Okay, so then, you don't have to be perfect around the pipe here really, because I'm definitely not that, am I? All right, you guys should be able to hear me now. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there with the sound. All right, thanks, GK. I appreciate that. Okay. Are these different systems covered in the bathroom remodeling course? I will be making a course on this for sure. It's just not going to be out for a few months. But yeah, in the course, I pretty much do go board on most of what I was doing. I do have a course on a towel walk and shower that I did the wedi system. And then, yeah, it was wedi and go board primarily. So, but as far as this membrane application, there will be a future course. So if you ever join the Geek Collection, you'll be able to get everything. So thanks, guys, for the no audio thing. I don't know why my audio went out. That's a shame. By the way, your towels. Yeah, okay. But anyways, let's, yeah, looking at this again, just for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, looking at my list here, and I have it in the description. I'll have it in the description below, I should say. But here was the breakdown again of what things cost. So if you did cement board with Hydroban, you'd be about $272 to do this tub surround. Schluter was probably the winner, probably the cheapest at $265. And then Guru, which I just did right now, which is about $317. And then Go Board, which honestly is my go-to. I would have much preferred putting Go Board up than doing this membrane system. But again, this was, you know, the reason I demonstrate different types of methods is because not everyone can get Go Board. And there was definitely some stock issues with that lately. And so, you know, I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to travel 3 hours to go get Go Board, and sometimes it's just not affordable to get it. So that's why I like to do these other systems. You know, when it comes to Schluter, it's just usually accessible like right there. You could just go pretty much anywhere and buy it. So that's a really big plus, and that's why I do a lot of Schluter, is because it's easily accessible, and really the price is really kind of hard to beat compared to a lot of different systems. But if I had the choice, I would definitely go with Go Board all day long, just because of the speed of it. I would have already been done with that project. And in wedi, you know, go back to the beginning of the video to see my comments on that. But wedi, I feel, is the best backer board, but it's just unrealistically expensive for most people. So, you know, that's where I'm at with that. So I hope this demonstration worked out well. And if you're, you know, obviously later on, you've already watched the whole thing. So I really appreciate you guys joining me here. Give me a like on this video, and I'll see you in the next video. So thanks so much, guys.